Oh, wait, what the hell? That's episode 103. What is that up there?
No,
Oh, there we go. Never mind. I hit the wrong thing.
All right. Well, let's get this show on the road. All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to episode 104 of the Salvaggio and Cratty Sports Podcast. Here for you on a Saturday. I think this is the first time we've ever recorded in our history on a Saturday, to my knowledge. But we're here at 104. Had to postpone this week's episode because Ryan had other commitments. So it works out, though, because we had some news drop last night and throughout the day as well in the NHL in particular, and plenty going on with the Red Sox and the MLB in bad ways. So we're going to cover it all today, begrudgingly so at times. But before we get there, Ryan, how are you doing today?
I'd be doing better if I didn't just watch the baseball team I love get fucking walloped 28-5 last night. And pretty much, I think, seal what direction they should be going in at the trade deadline. But we'll get into that a little later, as you said. Other than that, I'm doing fine. Like you said, kind of interesting that we're doing it on a Saturday, but I was a busy man pretty much all week. So this is what we're running with.
Yeah, I'm just tweeting this out right now. Yeah, I was at the Keith Urban concert last night at and in Mansfield, the Xfinity Center, and just seeing the notifications pop on my phone. I'm like, holy fuck, it's 14-1. What is going on?
I was playing Fortnite. I couldn't get the game to come up on my laptop, so I just kept seeing the updates come up of the fifth inning where they scored 11 runs. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, what is the score of the game if Toronto scored all these runs? And I look and it's 20-2 or whatever it was at that time. I'm like, yep, not even going to bother turning the game on tonight. And then they lost 25-3 or 4, whatever it was, because, God forbid.
28-5.
Or 28-5. Thank you. I flipped this. 20-4, 20-5 would have been a little easier to swallow than 28-5.
I definitely could have looked into this, but I didn't. That has to be the most runs they've ever allowed in our life.
I think so. I saw it was at least historic for Toronto for the most runs they've ever scored. I can't imagine the Red Sox have given up many more runs than that. That's just a joke. And
I can't imagine many teams in general letting up.
No, probably not. Yeah, ever. I can't. Yeah, but I don't know. Part of me, as we'll get into it with because that's spoiler alert, my moment of the week. I know it just kind of happened last night, so maybe a little bit of a cop out. But there's a couple of things I want to talk about. Part of me thinks that maybe because there was apparently a team workout or a team meeting on Thursday. I think I saw the report before this game, so maybe there was some words said between the team and stuff. But part of me kind of thinks with how bad they looked and how bad they played, it was maybe an FU to ownership with all the, the stuff that came out during the week, All-Star weekend with Bogarts, Devers, and the contract stuff. So maybe they just said, fuck it, we're done with the BS. We're just going to come out and lay a complete egg. But I don't know. We'll get into it, share our thoughts. You have another baseball moment of the week, though, that kind of happened more so previously in the week. So you're kind of in better shape than I am when it comes to picking moments of the week.
Yeah, and it's much more positive.
Yeah, maybe one of the only positive things we'll talk about today. I don't know how much positive Bruin stuff we have, or I know there was a big NHL trade that's kind of rocked the NHL a little bit. Yeah, but yeah, you're sticking with the positives, which is good because somebody has to for the show today.
We have to have something, and
yep.
I couldn't really think of, even though it's been a longer time than usual between recordings, I couldn't think of a moment better than this one. And it was Clayton Kershaw and Blake Grice at the All-Star media availability. For anybody who didn't see, Blake Grice was at Clayton Kershaw's media availability at the All-Star game and talked about how his grandfather, like a bucket list item, was always to meet Clayton Kershaw. Never got to do so since he sadly passed away. So Blake made his way to All-Star media availability, got to talk to Clayton Kershaw in front of all the media, all the, anyone else in the building. And he broke down in tears a little bit, held it together pretty well. I don't know if I would have held it together that well. Got to talk to him, gave him a couple hugs, and it was just a really cool, one of those you'll love to see it type of moments. And like Kershaw said, took a lot of courage for Blake to do that at such a young age. And it was just really cool. There's nothing really to not like about it. It was just a perfect, sweet moment. So
yeah, absolutely.
Had to be mentioned. It's a tier 5. It's just one of those awesome things, unfortunately, you see these type of things, like cool moments for fans in sports every now and again that make you smile. So
yeah, absolutely. A bigger moment than the game itself or something like that. Just a great moment of humility. I'm a little surprised. I know, like you said, this was a great moment, but a little surprised you didn't pick Kyle Schwarber kind of getting effed over in the home run derby. I don't know if you had any thoughts to share on that, because there was a lot of talk about that a miscount in the home runs, or I think it was with Pujols, his pitcher was throwing a little too quick, or Schwarber's batting practice pitcher sucked. Like, let's just get that out of the way. He was horrible.
Yeah, I was gonna say that for the baseball section, but
okay.
like, we got to it. But like, yeah, I mean, MLB rigged. They wanted Albert Pujols in his send off to get into the second round at least, and they screwed Schwarber, which is blasphemous. It was blasphemous. But like, I'm just glad I didn't actually end up betting on Schwarber because I was just too lazy. Like, honest to God, truth, too lazy. But yeah, they got screwed over. I would have been asking for my money back. So,
I mean, they were asleep at the wheel the whole
brutal
derby. It seemed like, because Juan Soto, I think he hit 21 home run. Technically, he only needed 20, but they miscounted his or didn't see one go out or something. So his winning round, he finished with 21, I think, instead of just the 20 that he needed. So I don't know what they were doing. Who was, like I said, asleep at the wheel or not paying attention when it came to umping it or whatever you want to call it, or just counting home runs. But
they're trying to stifle my boy.
Absolutely. Seems like it.
I don't know if there's like some bad blood. Maybe he hit a lot of home runs against the Dodgers.
Yeah, they didn't like. Yeah,
I don't know. Just saying, MLB rigged.
MLB rigged. Yeah, I think you could definitely make the case. I mean, again, it's the home run derby. It's like, who cares? But I just find it funny that a lot of people this time around seem to be like a little up in arms that you could be so not blatantly oblivious to it, but I guess maybe blatantly oblivious when, like you said, you have Pujols and maybe they wanted to send him off a little bit more than maybe he should have. Put on a good show. I'll give him credit there. I didn't.
Pujols did as good as he did. I know, he's Albert Pujols, but like, guy's slowing down quite a bit.
Well, he started off slow, and I'm like, oh, please don't come out and hit like 2 home runs and make a fool out of yourself. And then picked up, got going. I'm like, all right, there's a little bit of vintage Albert Pujols that we're so used to seeing. But like I said, I'm just happy he actually put on a little bit of a show and didn't get shut out or have a really bad performance that would have maybe been a little laughable. But like, all right, this 40-year-old shouldn't have been here in the first place. Like, this was kind of ridiculous. But all in all, not a bad product.
Yeah, I mean, I've always loved, like, when I was more into baseball when I was a kid, he was one of those guys, like, you always try to, like, you're playing wiffle ball, you're emulating the batting stance. I love his batting stance so much. It's like very simple and it's not like explosive or anything, but I just love it. He's got such a great swing.
Absolutely, it works.
This isn't to say like we're hating on our Pujols. We're just having some fun, and I mean, the guy's had an incredible career. So
absolutely, yeah, first ballot Hall of Famer for sure. Like,
yeah, 100%.
No disrespect to Albert Pujols.
Shout out, drinking for the occasion. If anybody didn't see the tweet, friend of the program, Chris Blackie, it's his birthday. I don't think he's in the chat yet. He's probably celebrating right now, but
some sort of festivities.
We might have a call from him to talk on the air, so we'll see when that happens. Or
be interesting.
He could just be living it up right now with the family. So shout out to him.
Randomly pop in whenever he feels like it.
Yeah, he just does what he does. He'll pop in whenever.
Fair enough. And keeps us on our toes. I like it.
We'll give him another shout out when he's in our presence. So shout out to him, friend of the program, living legend amongst us. But yeah, I mean, let's segue to your moment of the week. And I mean, truly one of the most terrible losses of any Boston/New England sports team of our lifetime.
Yep. I mean,
it's epically bad.
I don't even know where to start.
Watch it.
Like I said,
I'm so glad I didn't watch it, dude.
Part of me feels like I said, it was like predetermined before the game. Like, we're gonna come out and throw the stinker out here just to show management how much help we need. With how bad. Like, I can't imagine the team just like looks that bad. Like, there's no way you're that terrible that you give up 28 runs and 11 runs in the 5th or whatever inning it was that occurred, and it just looks so bad. But I wanted to turn my attention more so to Jarren Duran. I don't know if you saw the inside the park grand slam he allowed on just looking like he'd never played baseball before in his life. He's a horrible outfielder. Like, if this team was, he's one of the worst out. Like, you go from having one of the best. They still have him obviously in Bradley. He's playing right field now, but one of the best outfields in baseball a couple years ago. We've talked about it before with Benintendi and Bradley and Betts patrolling. And now to go to Jarren Duran, who might be the worst center fielder I've ever seen in my lifetime. Like, he can't read a baseball to save his life off the bat. The only thing that saves him is his speed, which he's not even using that really anymore, and didn't use it on this play last night. So he is borderline useless. Like, if this team had a legitimate outfielder outside of Verdugo, or even if Kike was a little bit healthy, like, obviously you trust him out there more than you trust Duran. Like, Duran should be on a bus back to Worcester. But just the piss poor effort he gave last night, and then the comments afterwards. Like I said, if you missed it, he gave up an inside the park grand slam to Ryan Tapia on a ball that he completely lost and then never went after. It landed on the warning track, and he kind of just stood there and watched it, and watched Verdugo come from like the parking lot, it seemed like, to go get the baseball. But he was asked about it after the game. His quote was, obviously, I should have taken a step or two, but he, being Verdugo, was already going to beat me to the ball, so I didn't want to get in his way. What if I sprint into him and collide with him or something like that? I should have taken a step or two, to me. They basically translate to, yeah, I probably should have taken a step or two to make it seem like I gave a shit, but in reality, I didn't, because I played it or misplayed it so poorly, and it was just an embarrassing moment. And then what if I sprint into and collide with him, again, colliding with Verdugo? If you watch that play, Nesson was able to cut to Tapia twice, running around the bases like a madman, before Verdugo was even in the picture. Like, he was nowhere near that baseball. And like I just said, with Duran's speed, like, you take off straight line right to it, you should be able to get there before Verdugo did. And then if I sprint into him, like, you're going for the baseball. You're not going like to clothesline Verdugo. Like, it's just such a stupid comment from a guy that we've already talked about this season for just dumb, like the whole, again, I don't want to keep harping on the Toronto thing and the vaccination crap. But we ripped him apart when he said that. I got to do my research on that. Like, now you're not going after baseballs. Like, you're not a everyday player. Like, you're not a JD Martinez. You're not a Rafael Devers that has a spot on this team. Now, in a couple weeks, they probably won't, because they're going to get traded, as we'll get into later. But you're not like a superstar player. Like, this isn't the attitude that you should like have. You've earned nothing in this league so far. This season, again, if this team was more healthy and had a couple of legitimate outfielders, you probably wouldn't even be here because of how bad he's a defensive liability out there. And again, you saw it last night. I understand, because it happened to Christian Arroyo. Like, you lose a ball in the lights, it looks bad. But the fact that you don't go after it afterwards, and then you kind of like make these piss poor excuses, I didn't want to run into Verdugo. Like, again, you're going for the ball, and Verdugo, like I said, watch the replay twice. They cut to Tapia running the bases before Verdugo's even in the picture. Like,
I'm glad you mentioned that, because I did not know that.
I had to look it up again today. I was curious. I'm like, how close was Verdugo to the ball? Like, again, even if he picks the ball up, being Duran, you weren't going to get him. By the time Verdugo got to the ball, Tapia was already rounded third. So it was going to be an inside the park homer regardless. But just show a little effort, man. Like, you're not on the level of, like I said, the Bogarts and the Devers, where you can maybe get away with dogging a play. Like, it's just, and again, it just goes back to just how, like, I don't know if it's just that the effort's not there anymore from this team or whatnot, but just like there is something so clearly wrong with this team, and it looks like they're out of it. And I think they're starting to hear the noise of, again, all the trade stuff that's come up and the talk of Bogarts and Devers, the extension that we'll get to coming up with how, horrible the offer they gave him. I think it's all starting to get to them, and they're just starting to, I think, maybe, yeah, the trade deadline's coming. Half this team's not going to be here in a couple of weeks. We'll just pack it in and just go from there.
It's pretty brutal how things have unraveled how they have. Here's the wild moment that we need to put this into context. On a Saturday afternoon in July 1923, so almost
Did you look it up?
years ago, the Red Sox were on the road for a doubleheader when Cleveland scored a run in every inning, with the largest margin coming in a 13-run sixth inning en route to a 27-3 drubbing in Game 1. It was the most runs allowed in Red Sox history. Now 28-5 is the most, almost 100 years later. Like,
it's ridiculous. What'd you say that score? The score was 27 to. Okay, so that's a what, 24. So they still haven't matched the largest margin of loss or whatever you want to call it yet. They still have that.
27-3 is like a friggin'.
It's like you're watching a Patriots game.
Yeah, like it's like the Chargers playing the Bears. Like,
like you said, an absolute drubbing.
It's a football game. Yep. It was in 1923, so the level of competition and skill is, of course, much different. This team, especially Jaron Duran for that shit last night, currently does not have that dog in them.
No, not even close.
Collectively, very little dog. There's
things are getting
a bad way, like dogging it, like freaking Duran did. If you want to put a little spin zone on it, you have to sell at the deadline. Like, I know it's dramatic from a one game standpoint, even if it's 28-5 loss.
I don't think it is.
At the same time, with how congested the division is around where the Red Sox are, you go anywhere from 2 to 4 in like a matter of a week or two sometimes. it's not worth going all in with this team. It's just not.
No. And you mentioned a division that's congested. It's a division you clearly can't win in. Haven't won a series yet against the division. I know people will sit there and go, they've played the Yankees good this season. Doesn't matter. Like, you still have to play the other 4 teams. And, like, Baltimore's right there. Maybe they're going to go away, turn back into the Orioles. But, like, do you have faith in the Red Sox being able to beat them? Like, the thing with Durant, and again, like, just to show how desperate this team is, like, seeing the lineup today, Durant's back in center leading off. Like, that's a play that, like, and I feel like Alex Cora is the type of manager that would do it. Like, you bench the guy for a day to, like, prove a point that, hey, you need to go. I would have benched him after that play. But again, that they're so, in disarray and they don't have anybody up here because they're all hurt and just don't have the level of talent that you need. Like, you have to throw Durant out there in center field again and, deal with that liability. Like, kind of stinks. I would maybe look to put him in left field, see if, he can stick there. But then what do you do with Verdugo? Like, he seems pretty comfortable out in left field. So it's just multiple problems with this team and nothing, it seems like, is going to get fixed. You said it may be a 1-game overreaction. I don't think so. I was going to say, end with this stuff, what I could potentially see them doing at the trade deadline. And my thought was going to be, going into this homestand, it's going to be tough. Like we saw, you play Toronto, who you haven't been able to beat yet. Then it's a 4-game homestand against Cleveland. You kind of expose Cleveland on the road, but they're still in the thick of things. They're in a playoff hunt for the playoffs. You get Milwaukee at home. They've been good all season. And then you have 1 game with Houston, who's dominated all season before the trade deadline comes and goes. I was going to sit here and come on today and say, if you can win this homestand, maybe you become some sort of mini buyers and make some minor moves like a Dominic Smith or a Jose Quintana, which would piss me off if you make those moves because they're nothing special. And we'll get more into the Dominic Smith stuff later. But my thought was, if you lose this homestand or you split, you don't look good, then I think it kind of signifies that you're going to be sellers. With everything that's gone on with the Sale injury that just happened, I think that was kind of the beginning, a signal for the beginning of the end. You get Chris Sale back, looks good in his first outing against Tampa Bay, got hit around against New York, and then obviously has the fracture in his pinky. Kind of shows that, like, okay, maybe this isn't our year. And then you have this game right out of the All-Star break. I think this last night signified they're going to be sellers. Again, it looked like such a dead team that they didn't care to be out there. And again, maybe that was because they wanted to prove that point to ownership and say that, hey, come out and get us some help. But I don't know how, if you're ownership, you can look at that and go, okay, well, if you guys aren't going to try, then why should we? So I think this game last night signified this is it. It's over. Like, you're going to, like you said, Bogarts you'll sell, Martinez, Eovaldi, Vasquez, whoever you want to get rid of. Everybody is going at the trade deadline because there's just no fight in this team, it seems like. Maybe they come out today and blow the doors off Toronto. I doubt it because they have to face Manoah. And like we talked about before we jumped on, the 5 through 9 in the lineup is it's the Worcester Red Sox out there. So I don't know how this team inspires any sort of hope or, thoughts that they can make some sort of run here before the deadline and maybe go out and get some big pieces, because I just don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, it's a brutal state to be in. And one of the awkward things too is, like, freaking, we'll get to it later, is I can't believe the Devers shit with the Matt Olson comparisons. Like, I get it from a positional standpoint, age, whatever, but, like, come on. And then this whole thing came out during the week for cost for a family to go to a baseball game, and the Red Sox have the highest average total. This factors in ticket price, average beer price, soda, hot dog, and parking. The Red Sox are at number 1 by
quite a ways, I think.
$12. They are number 1 at an average of $324.37. So they have the money, even though John Henry is,
thrown into the Pittsburgh Penguins and
potentially a professional sports team, a professional women's hockey team in Pittsburgh, which he's trying to do.
I saw a basketball team out in Vegas, maybe. Like,
yeah, he doesn't care. He doesn't care.
Not anymore.
He doesn't care. It's so fucking frustrating that in Boston, we've obviously been so spoiled, but, like, we have these dickhead owners. Like, a couple of them. I have nothing wrong with Grossbeck, nothing wrong with Kraft, but, like, Henry and the Jacobs, like, penny pincher galore for John Henry. We know the story with him. And the Jacobs, all they care about is money too. They want one round of playoff tickets. That's it. If they get that, they're happy. A cup run, even better. That's what they care about. It's brutal. They have, the Bruins too have never rebuilt, and they've never had a point where they have to, like, absolutely tear everything down, in my opinion. But they will never acknowledge a rebuild. They will never.
Doesn't
do
seem
it
like it. No.
Jacobs are here. And they reinforced that a couple weeks ago in the talking to the media. It's so fucking brutal to see this shit happen. Like they're gonna. I really do feel like they're just gonna let Bogarts go for nothing.
Probably, I think as you get closer to the deadline and more stuff will probably come out, they're going to look to trade him off. Like if stuff comes out that maybe you finally get the report that he's not going to resign here, which then that's going to kill his trade value, which, you know, Bogarts isn't an a-hole by any means, but if you wanted to stick it to the Red Sox, that would be a way of doing so, because then his trade value, I feel like, diminishes completely. If he just says, whatever team I get traded to, I'm going to hit the open market, and if you want to try to resign me, then go for it. Like, he's not going to have any trade value after that, because no team is going to spend a ton to bring a guy that's going to be there for, 50 games, if that, by when the trade deadline comes and goes. So it's bad now. It could get very worse as we get closer to August 2nd.
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting to see, you know, how low they're going to go here, because it's not looking great. And like I said, there's really no, I don't know how to word it. Like, there's no, you don't want to believe in this team or anything like that. They haven't shown you anything that seems that they're going to pull themselves out of the rut they're in and, you know, maybe try to make a run here. But you said it with the playoff tickets too, with the Bruins. I think that's kind of the same way the Red Sox are sitting right now. Like the wild card, obviously there's a new team that gets added to it this year with 3 of them. Everything is so kind of muddy there that the teams are close enough where maybe the Red Sox do make a couple of small moves and they think if they do that, we can maybe sneak into that third wild card spot, like you said, to sell playoff tickets. And then you get bounced in a game or two. Like, it's not worth it to the fans. But again, that's kind of like you said with the Bruins, it seems like that's the way the Red Sox want to go, is if they can just sell a couple more playoff tickets and have a home game here or there, they'll be happy with it. Meanwhile, you know, they're not really competing for anything because they just can't keep up with the brasses of the league.
Yeah, like, it's not even as much like getting prospects for me. It's just asset management at this point, more so, because like the Red Sox don't have a perfect prospect core, but they've built it up pretty good over the past few years. It's just more so one of those situations where if you fuck up asset management, it drives me crazy.
Yep, absolutely.
Like, from a common sense standpoint. And one guy I'm kind of wondering, like, I don't know if anybody's ever like discussed this really. He's 28. He's having this unexpected, awesome season in the bullpen. Do you think they will, you know, if they really do want to tear it down, you're getting value for anybody, do you think they will entertain the idea of trading John Schreiber?
Probably not, because I think Heim probably sees that as another bargain bin guy that I got to win on. Exactly. So I'm not going to move him.
That's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah. I think they'll keep him.
Pretty decent return if you trade him.
Oh, he absolutely probably could. I think, like I said, we'll get to who they have free agent wise. I think anybody that's a free agent coming up, maybe with the exception of Rich Hill, because I don't know if they trade him. You know, again, that too. But I mean, I'm just thinking of if they want to sell off guys that are probably not going to come back next year. He's a free agent coming up. Maybe you try to convince him that you'll trade him to a team that has a legitimate shot of a contention, so he gets a World Series. But I think they'll probably lean more towards selling off guys that probably aren't going to or might re-sign here, but the Red Sox would probably go into the offseason and said, nah, we're good. You're going to cost us too much money, so we're not going to bring you back by any means. You talked about prospects, though. There was the draft. I'm not going to go into it too much because the MLB draft is 20 rounds and a whole lot of guys moving around. But I thought it
used to be like 40.
Yeah, it's been cut down tremendously because of how ridiculous that is. Yeah, you were drafted in the 40th round of the 1,000th pick or whatever the hell the numbers would come out to be. But I thought there was an interesting article from Joe Doyle of ProspectLive.com. Put out an article of the 6 standout draft classes, and surprisingly, he named the Red Sox as one of them. I know during the draft night, you and I joked about it because I think their first 4 picks or close to it, they drafted shortstops again. Again, we'll joke about it, but
they love shortstops.
They do love shortstops. It makes it easier to trade guys like Bogarts and Devers. Maybe you can transition one of those shortstops to a third baseman. But I will acknowledge, I caught some flack on the TikTok I made that, the MLB draft, you draft the best available talent. Yeah, I know that. I'm just making the joke that every year they draft a shortstop, it seems like. So don't come at me.
True,
exactly. Like I love the pick of Mayer last year. They got the consensus. It seemed like number 1 pick at number 4. Like, I'm not mad about that. I'm just making the joke that, stop drafting shortstops for God's sake. You're going to have 9 of them trying to play one position come 5 years from now.
Chris Blackie is in the chat saying outrageous. Where's the Salvaggio costume needed more? Just wear it for like a minute or like a couple minutes. The
stupid robe thing that I have.
Do you have it right next to you?
I do. It was on my bed.
Let's go.
Usually it's on this
put
chair.
Put it on, damn it. Put it on.
This is gonna be so hot and disgusting.
I thought you actually weren't gonna do it. I thought you actually
95.
weren't gonna do it.
No, I'm a
I'm
man
not
of
gonna
the,
make you wear it the whole time.
I'm a man of the people. If I could get it on though, that'd be good. I'm just wasting time here. Hold on.
As you get that on, yeah, they did draft a lot of shortstops.
Uh-huh.
They went Romero, Cutter, both shortstops, and they go Roman Anthony, who's an outfielder, looks pretty promising. Pitcher, shortstop, pitcher, 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 catcher, pitcher, 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 shortstop, shortstop, pitcher, pitcher, outfielder, pitcher, pitcher, pitcher. So
this actually works with how pissed off I am with the Red Sox too. I know I did this for the Patriots a couple shows back, so
Anakin the rest
it ends up working out.
Just don't go kill any kids.
I'll try not to. No, but like I said, I'm not going to read this whole article. There were just some takeaways on each player, a couple little blurbs that, like I said, thought were interesting. And then the last line of the article was interesting too. So like you said, shortstop this looks so stupid. Here we go.
I hope Chris didn't dip out.
I know that would have been such an a-hole move, but like it's his birthday. I don't care. Like I'll call him an a-hole for leaving. Absolutely.
Happy birthday.
I hope you're happy with how this is going. But yeah, on the article, like you said, shortstop Mikey Romero. The blurb on him has a great on-field ability and off-field makeup. He seems like a confident kid from what I've seen. He seems thrilled that he's playing with Mayer, who's going to get the chance to play with Mayer, so that's good. Some camaraderie there. Maybe your middle infield coming up.
Maybe.
But again, who knows?
Put a king emoji in the chat for you. So
nice.
There you go.
Thank you.
That was worth it.
I appreciate it.
It's cool to see. It's cool and like kind of weird to see them draft somebody that he knows. Mm-hmm. Knowing that they're the same position. So I have to imagine there's the idea potentially down the road of them pulling down the middle.
Somebody's moving off short.
I mean, these kids are studs too. Like, look at the hair on them. We're gonna have the all hair team.
All Moss team, yep.
Like, oh my God. Like these kids got absolute chops on them, both of them, Mayer and Romero.
But yeah, Romero seems like
I was a little upset at first seeing a shortstop given the fact that you have Mayer, but they have this camaraderie and seems like a really interesting prospect. And I'm more okay with it than I was in the moment because I wanted them to draft like Brock Porter,
pitcher or an outfielder. Yeah, exactly.
Brock Porter fell to the 4th round, which is ridiculous, but it's all like slot value and shit like that. So I'm not going to act like a baseball capologist here.
Exactly.
Because I'm not. I like Romero though. There's no reason for like his skill set to hate on the kid. I mean, Cutter Coffee can pitch too. I think I saw he could play third base. Sounds like an interesting prospect. Roman Anthony, I don't, have all the stuff on me right here, but I read some stuff about him that got me a little fired up. I like that. I wish they had targeted the outfield a little bit more in the draft, I will say. I'm not going to be super particular because it's 20 rounds and there's like 98% of the players I've never fucking heard of. But it was cool too for me personally. Like at work, I did some stuff for Gatorade Player of the Year, and 2 of the baseball guys I covered, Brock Porter and Nolan Perry, both got drafted. Brock went in the 4th round, should have went like top 20 probably. Nolan Perry went in the 12th round of the Blue Jays. So congratulations to those guys. It was really cool to get in the mix with Gatorade a little bit and do some work on them. And follow their season. So shout out to them. But overall, like kind of like you, I'm a little surprised to see them mentioned as like one of the winners of the draft because partially I don't know how to read prospects as much as the experts out there in baseball, but it is cool to see that they're mentioned at least by somebody as one of the better jobs well done here.
That was
a better term.
The big thing for me because like I said, the last line in that article, the biggest takeaway was that Joe Doyle said that there may not be another class in the draft with the upside the Red Sox were able to acquire, which is interesting. Because like you said, they drafted a ton of guys that seem like they play the same position. The big thing, real quick, on great shirt to Chris. The big thing on Coffee, like you mentioned, the article says has better feet and action around the ball than most give him credit for, and his bat's going to play, so that's good there. Outfield is Roman Anthony, who was acquired in the compensatory round for losing Eduardo Rodriguez, and catcher Brooks Brandon, who was drafted in the 9th round, are both offensive first preps with big power and a feel for hit. So some guys that obviously are going to hit the ball potentially down the road. All 4, along with shortstop Travis Sanders, who was drafted in the 14th round, and shortstop Gavin Klein, who was drafted in the 13th round, all could conceivably blossom into top 100 prospects over time. So I found that kind of interesting that, you get a guy in the 14th and 13th round that could be a top 100 prospect. That's obviously a huge win potentially on the college level because all those guys were high school level guys that were drafted. On the college level, left-handed pitcher Dalton Rogers, who was drafted in the 3rd round, is a highly decorated lefty with a whippy arm and undervalued stuff, is a big leaguer. Left-handed pitcher Nolan Dean in the 5th round, right-handed pitcher Alex Hopp in the 6th. and right-handed pitcher Jonathan Brand in the 8th. All have appealing data and carrying pitch that have developed well, make for roll forward type big league roster players. I'd have to assume that's like back end of the rotation type of guys, or maybe middle reliever, something like that, depending on how you develop them, I guess. Shortstop Chase Meadroth, I think is how you say that, in the 4th round, hits absolutely everything, doesn't slug, is a fringy at second base. It has the super utility floor a la budget Adam Frazier. Don't hate that pick. Adam Frazier's, made a solid name for himself in baseball. Left-handed pitcher Hayden Mullins in the 12th round can be an explosive reliever with a good slider if Boston can get him into the strike zone. To me, kind of has the same feel of a Darwinson Hernandez type, because I think that was kind of the profile on him. Good slider, but can't throw strikes to save his life. So hopefully you can develop that kid into something more than that. And like I said, the biggest takeaway being that they're, like you said, seems like the Red Sox hit a home run with pretty much every one of their picks, which is good to see. And hey, Chaim Bloom likes his prospects. So if he hit a home run here, then I guess it works out in the end. But of course, we'll have to wait and see for the 2030 Boston Red Sox to see how many shortstops are playing 8 other positions and, how things go from there.
Yeah, the MLB draft is so much of a draft too. Like, you're drafting 20 rounds now. You're not going to have all of those players on the team at the same time.
God, no chance.
You're drafting a lot of these guys for upside, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Talking however, you end up, however much you end up scouting these guys and talking to them, whatever. And a lot of these guys are either going to fizzle out or they're going to be good trade chips. So that's really what you're going for in the draft with so many rounds here. So if one person with some credibility like Joe Doyle here is talking about them having some high upside in this draft, that's enough for me to not be super pissy about it. And
absolutely.
The MLB draft, there's no crazier draft, no more extensive drafts in sports. So Chris threw out a crazy idea in the chat.
Okay.
That he thinks the Sox, I don't know if he thinks this will happen or wants it to happen. The Sox let X go and sign Devers and Judge. Because those comments by Aaron Judge were
it was a little awkward.
Awkward.
Yeah,
very awkward. Are you sweating?
No, I'm good right now. Yeah, good.
Don't need to pass out.
The AC's blasted in the corner, so I'm good right now.
Nice.
We'll wait and see as the show goes on. But yeah, the Judge stuff, we didn't even talk about that. We'll mention it quickly. That was really weird. Like, he very easily could have just been
awkward.
like, we'll see what happens at the end of the season. Let's let this one play. Like a lot of guys do. Like, I'm not going to talk about my contract.
Right now.
Exactly. But the fact that he basically was just like, yeah, just continue to be an Aaron Judge fan. And basically that translates to me, like, follow me wherever I go, because it's not going to be the Yankees come the end of the season. So that's very interesting. But like you and I think it was you. I talked about it with a buddy of mine this morning, because he asked about Judge too. And I was like, it would fit the Red Sox bill of not spending money on their own players, but going out, shelling out money for these outside free agents. And it would be funny to see if they could bring Judge in here, but I don't.
It would drive Yankees fans fucking berserk.
I think the only thing that would drive Yankees fans crazier is, like I said to my friend, if he signed with the Mets, which I think is a very big possibility, which would be hilarious.
Judge and Alonso on the same team too would be pretty nuts.
Would be ridiculous. You'd be hitting 150 homers combined.
Having DeGrom in your rotation alone is like exciting enough, even though he's the worst injury luck in the league practically. Wouldn't argue that. Yeah, I'd be all for it. Like, I think Aaron Judge is kind of a dork sometimes, but the dude's absolutely ginormous, and he
can stay healthy. You're seeing what can happen.
Yeah.
Guy's probably going to win MVP this year. I don't think there's any doubt about that, unless Ohtani or someone like that makes some noise. But
it's so crazy too. Like, every time someone's big contract comes out, I'm like, this guy could realistically make $400 million. Like, that is just a stupid amount of money.
Well, at the start of the season, everyone, me included, was like, there's no way this guy is worth that amount of money. Like, he's insane for turning stuff down. And then he comes out and has this type of season where he's probably going to hit 50 home runs. It's like, all right, he's making a case for getting paid that amount of money. Like, we'll have to wait and see. I doubt the Red Sox will give it to him because, again, I think the Red Sox are heading for a just bargain bin, let's not spend any money type of way to do business, which is the wrong way to do business when you're the Boston Red Sox. But
exactly, yeah.
Who knows? We kind of briefly touched on it. Any overarching thoughts on Chris Sale's injury? Just same as me, kind of. I saw some people that were like, "Oh, this is Chris Sale, he's done. Like, this is terrible." Like, I think you can make the case that the extension now is probably, if you didn't already think so, probably was a mistake. But I'm not going to get on the guy for getting drilled by 107-mile-per-hour comebacker. That's not his fault. Like,
yeah, man, he did that on purpose.
Yeah, exactly. This guy can't stay healthy. Damn him for getting hit by a comebacker that he literally could not get out of the way of.
God damn idiot, should have gotten out of the way.
Yeah, moron. Should just taken a dive. But I feel bad for Sale. Like the stuff beforehand, the injuries. It's like, all right, like the guy's just never gonna come back. But he comes back, has a freak thing happen here. Like you feel for him a little bit. There's talks that maybe he'll be back by the end of the season or close to it. But if they're out of it, like, do you even consider bringing Chris Sale back? Like, I don't know how they're gonna go about dealing with him. But just shit luck all around for Chris Sale, because he seemed like a guy that obviously was fighting to get back here. Now this happens and it kind of derails things again. Like I said, I think it's the beginning of the white flag waving that the Red Sox season is done, and they're just gonna pack it in and try again next year.
Yeah, and Chris makes a good point, branching off of the whole Bogarts X and Bogarts the same person, but X Devers and Judge is that you can just move Story to shortstop. So
exactly, I think that's going to be
maybe this. We talked about this when they signed him. This is a possibility, but like
that's the plan.
Maybe that gets you more at a Story. Hopefully next year too. It's been a rough year for him at times.
Yep.
In his natural position, maybe he just goes sicko mode next year, and you're back in the mix a little more. Like at least you get more out of him, which is a W there. So
absolutely.
What's next on Red Sox talk? Because there's definitely a lot of it.
There's a decent amount. I'm going to try to run through it as quick as possible to get to some other things. But I thought, obviously, with All-Star Weekend coming up, there was a lot of time to interview guys and get guys' thoughts on certain things. Between Bogarts' trade deadline approach, I thought he had some interesting comments. We'll probably start there. Because he was asked by WEEI's Rob Bradford on Boston's outlook for the rest of the season. And he was asked about if the Red Sox should add at the deadline or what they should do. And Bogarts said, quote, "Yeah, I think everyone in the clubhouse would think the same way. Obviously, we saw what the trade deadline did for us last year, talking, of course, about Schwarber. Pushed us over the limit. It made us a much better team. Hopefully, we can have an addition this year, be the same. If that's the mindset they have, it'd be really great. I think we're right there for a second wild card spot. I don't see why anyone is saying like quote unquote fire sale or anything like that. I wouldn't think like that. And like I said in the outline, like I have in the outline, I'm glad Xander doesn't think that way, but the problem is ownership does not. I think again, with what happened last night, I think they are fully in, we are selling everybody mode. Again, if they add something, it's going to be a minor piece like a Quintana or a Dom Smith or something dumb like that. And I think it's like, again, he was asked a question, but I don't want to say it's, Xander pleading for or begging for help, but it kind of to me comes off, I don't know if you feel the same way, comes off like that to me though. Like he knows that ownership might not be fully invested. Like he's trying to plead for some sort of addition. Cause like it says, you saw what happened last year when Schwarber got brought in here. There's probably not a Schwarber level bat out there. I mean, maybe Josh Bell, if you think of him that way. But I just found it kind of interesting that he is basically seems like coming off as, pleading, begging that we need some sort of help here. And again, if ownership hears that, if they don't, then we'll see what happens. I don't know if you had anything else on Bogarts' comments that you wanted to add. Or you kind of feel the same way that it's him, seems like begging for some sort of help that is going to fall on deaf ears.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. And like, it gets to a point too for Bogarts. Like it still feels like he's so young, but like
it's been here forever.
He's the longest tenured guy in the organization right now. Like, he's got to have a feel for like how things operate pretty well at this point. Like it absolutely comes off that way to me. Like he's like, we're not like a guaranteed playoff team, but if we want to do that, like
we need some help.
I don't know, maybe we need some help. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
We need a legitimate bat at first base or a legitimate outfielder that can play center field because Kike's not coming back anytime soon. Like
he's saying these things the way he's saying them because like he's just not sure it's gonna happen this time. Because like this isn't to say the Red Sox haven't made moves to move the needle in the past. Like they got Schwarber last year. They made moves in the past to make runs or at least try to. But like it kind of sounds like Xander's in this awkward situation where he's like, I don't know, like, but like it'd be kind of dope if we got more people to help us here, like maybe a first baseman, whatever. Like,
you saw what it did last year; it helped us.
Whatever's on his mind, then you let him fucking go, and he's got 28 ding dongs. Fucking keep the change.
But yeah, I mean, it's a weird time because like now the other stuff too we wanted to talk about is all the comments. Again, we've talked about the Bogarts and Devers extension, and we'll get to the Devers numbers in a second here because that's just an absolute slap in the face and should piss you off if you're a Red Sox fan. with what they did to Rafael Devers. But there were interesting comments. David Ortiz, Dustin Pedroia, Jonathan Papelbon of all people. Didn't think Jonathan Papelbon was going to go sicko mode on Twitter this week and just blast everybody to high heavens. But there was a lot of interesting comments. David Ortiz was asked about the Devers and Bogaerts stuff. The extensions, again, Rob Bradford was the guy that asked the question. Ortiz said on Devers and Bogaerts, quote, when you have a guy like Devers and Bogaerts in your lineup, that means you're going to take the pressure away from everyone else. They know how to handle it. They know how it is to play in Boston. Trust me, playing in Boston is not for every type of player. Those two guys, they grew up here. They know what to expect from them. They know what they're going to give here. That's why I don't understand organizations sometimes walking away from that and prefer to explore some other options. I would go with what I know, keep it simple. And another quote from David Ortiz on Xander and Rafi from Alex Spear. He said, quote, they're the best players that can represent the Red Sox. We need to lock them in. I don't know how I want to word this. I don't know if pathetic's the right word, but I'll use pathetic. I mean, have you, from baseball, hockey, whatever it might be, the timing of these comments is weird. And the Pedroia comment too kind of said the same thing, talking about Bogaerts being a guy you build around. He's a guy that, should be with the Red Sox for 15 years for, paraphrasing what Pedroia said. Papelbon said the same thing, basically, they're going to build a team around Bogaerts. I can't ever remember, legends from the team, former players, ever coming out and having to talk about this, stuff like this, extending your franchise type players in the past, whether that's, like I said, in baseball, hockey, whatever. It feels like, these old players are kind of, again, trying to plead with ownership that, hey, these are the guys you should be building around. Like Ortiz said, I think the last comment in his first quote talking about, why some organizations would rather let guys walk away than and sign outside. I feel like that's kind of a dig at the Red Sox. Like 100%. A little subtlety there.
These are all pointed. They're
absolutely
all out around the same time. These are all pointed because these guys give a shit more than John Henry does.
Seems like that's the part I find pathetic about it. Like, you have to have these, like I said, former legends and former superstar players come out and basically try to smack you in the face and be like, what are you guys doing? You have the talent on this team. Why are you going to let them walk away? And why are you going to throw stupid extension numbers out to Devers that aren't even worth entertaining because it's just not even close to what he should be getting paid? Like, it's like you said earlier, it's maddening from a standpoint of being a Red Sox fan. And just you and I can see it. And again, these former star players can see it. Why can't the owners and the GMs and everything see it the same way they do? It's, again, I just going to keep throwing the word out there. It's pathetic that you have to have these type of comments come out that are basically like, please sign these guys. Because if you let them go, you're making a huge mistake and one you might not ever recover from a fan standpoint, from an interest standpoint, just from a product on the field standpoint. You're seeing it now with, Devers getting hurt. He's probably going to go to the injured list today. Trevor Story's not 100%. He's already on the injured list. Like, you're playing with a AAA baseball team. Why, if you let these guys go, you're seeing what that's doing now. Like, it's maddening, again, for lack of a better term, and keep going to the same ways to describe it here.
It sucks. Mm-hmm. It sucks. I had a thought. I fucking lost train of thought, though. I was going to make a joke about John Henry, and I lost it. But
there's multiple ones you can make, so it's probably pretty tough to come up and try to figure out what was going to be the thing. The other big thing too, will you try to think of it? I'll cue up the Devers stuff because you mentioned it earlier. The Devers extension, the numbers came out. This is from Tyler Milliken on Monday. He shed some light on the Red Sox idea of what an extension towards Devers looked like. And it was a really, like I said, slap in the face number. He said, quote, according to Alex Spear, the Red Sox used Matt Olson's 8-year, $168 million extension for a, quote, basis of discussions with Rafael Devers last winter. The reason for that comp was the concern about him sticking at third base. So with that extension, Matt Olson is making $21 million annually. I don't get the comparison to a first baseman that has never had to move off of first base, has been a Gold Glover over there since he pretty much broke into the league. I don't know why, if you're the Red Sox, if you were looking for some sort of extension, it is cheap. Well, that's the reason. That's the answer for the question I'm asking.
It's kind of crazy, the concept of saying $168 million is cheap. But when you're talking about a guy who can make 300 or something, or like 250, 280,
whatever it might be. But that's like, again, I was going to get into, if you want to look at a player comparison, like, why don't you stick with a third baseman who has been a third baseman his whole career? Like Nolan Arenado I have here would have been, and I saw people on Twitter say the same thing. Nolan Arenado is the perfect comparison, I feel like. He's back in February of 2019, signed an 8-year, $260 million extension With the Rockies, that had an opt-out after 3 years. That comes out to around $32.5 million. If you want to go even sooner, or I guess sooner than that, or more recent than that, I guess, Jose Ramirez, who's probably, I've seen some people say, maybe the best third baseman in the American League. He's right up there with Devers, an MVP caliber player. He signed a 5-year, $124 million extension with Cleveland. That comes out to around 24.8. Obviously, Devers is going to get more than that. But again, you have 2 all-star, superstar third basemen. I don't know why you're going for a player comp of a first baseman that has never had a problem defensively, that has never had to move off. I know he started in the outfield, I think, with Oakland. I went and looked it up the other day, but only played like 5 games out there. So it's not like he had to make any sort of massive transition. I don't understand the player comp there. It's just a weird angle to go. And like you said, the answer is clear. It's because it was a cheap extension that he got, that a lot of people, when it came out, was like, wow, that's a steal for a player of Matt Olson's caliber. Like, that's surprising he signed for that little. And then again, it comes back to, well, the Red Sox want to be cheap and they don't want to give an extension that Devers is worth in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, like the same thing with Ramirez. Like, Ramirez is ridiculously cheap.
Absolutely,
like,
yeah.
Like $24.8 million, again, is a lot of money. Mm-hmm. But like a guy like Jose Ramirez could easily make double that.
I can hear all the old people that may be tuning yelling at us, like, that's more than enough money. Like,
more than enough money. That's what my mom's like. She saw the Patrick Mahomes thing in like the newspaper or something. She's like, $503 million. That's insane.
I've had the argument with my dad and grandfather, like, that is the market for these players. Yes, you've mentioned it multiple times. It is an absurd amount of money, but like you said, Devers is a $300 million player. Mookie Betts is a $300 million player. Like, that's what the market is. Like, they're not going to cheap out on these guys because they just can't do that.
I do remember my joke that I was going to make. It wasn't necessarily about Henry, but it was about ownership in general, is that LeBron James' silence on these comments is deafening. So.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. LeBron James should be in some hot water, being the owner of the Red Sox or part owner of the Red Sox, and saying Boston fans are racist, which we're not.
Might as well just sell a steak.
Absolutely.
Boston fans are racist, but in that same clip, he said racism is fine. I don't know, man.
More of a shit show with Red Sox ownership. The other funny thing too with the Devers stuff is, this was from Alex Spear. He had a tweet out there to quote, "Devers just confirmed my report that the Sox use Matt Olson as a comp, but said he wanted to be recognized for who he is as a player. I don't blame Devers for that in any way, shape, or form." He said he knows his value. I asked what that was. He and Bogarts cracked up. Devers declined to answer. Like, that too, I find absolutely funny. That like they both know
these guys
they're getting screwed over.
These guys are going to leave and drop dick on the league. Like,
part of me hopes Devers, I was talking about this with my dad yesterday. I would hate it from a hating the team standpoint, but I would find it hilarious if Devers went to the Yankees. Like, the Yankees would be dumb if they don't re-sign Judge or, go out and trade for Soto, which I think is becoming a more and more realistic and scary possibility.
They want Benintendi seriously too. I saw it today. So
I saw that too, which is interesting because I saw last week that
Benintendi on the Yankees, man.
He'd be the perfect fit for them, though. You and I talked about this a couple weeks ago. Like, he'd be the perfect player for that lineup. He really would. He rakes in that stadium. Devers the same way. This is why I think that'd be funny if he went out there. Would hate it from a Yankee standpoint. But
Yankees ownership. Who's their owner now? Fucking Cashman.
Still the Steinbrenner, isn't it? Cashman's the GM.
Cashman makes the moves.
Yeah. Yep.
Look, you don't have to trade for Benintendi.
Yeah, you don't have to make me hate Andrew Benintendi. Like,
you don't have to trade for Andrew Benintendi. You should be doing that with your fucking robes on. Do a Jedi mind trick on him.
This is a move you don't want to make.
This is not the outfielder you're looking for.
He's not vaccinated. He can't play in Toronto. That report came out the other day. Don't trade for him. Which is why I didn't think they were going to. But then, like you said, I saw that report come out again yesterday that they're apparently backing on him, which would stink because, again, we don't want to hit Andrew Benintendi. We like Andrew Benintendi. He never should have left the Red Sox. But they wanted him to be a 20, 25 home run hitter, and he was, just fine being a 15 homer, 280, 290 hitter. But they don't like those things.
That works.
So real quick, again, just if you're going off of player comps, I wanted to throw out there what I would do if I was the Red Sox and we're smart and would want to re-sign Rafael Devers long term. If you're looking at a money standpoint, add $100 million to that initial offer he got, so that'd be around 8 years, $268 million, which comes out to $33.5 million annually. If you want to go for the years instead of the money, if you're Devers, I've been saying this for a long time. 10 years, $300 million is what the offer should be. Lock him up long term. Keep him here. Hopefully keep Bogarts, because I think if you lose Bogarts, you're going to lose Devers. So I think that writing is on the wall. They probably won't do that. So I think you can kiss Devers goodbye as well. Do you have a problem with the light over there? I saw that out of the corner of my eye. You gonna lose power on us?
The light kind of flickered a little bit. I
Bugged
got a little
out.
nervous, but it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
God damn it, electricity! You're ruining the show.
It's a ghost.
It's a ghost.
The door behind you is just gonna open up and slam closed. And then the other thing too,
to fight a ghost.
I'll see how that works out for you. The other thing too that should piss you off as a Red Sox fan is the trade deadline target that we've alluded to that they're apparently interested in. This was from Mass Live's Chris Cotillo from a fan-sided article from Robert Murray. It said, quote, the Red Sox are among the teams that have discussed first baseman /outfielder Dominic Smith in the trade talks with the Mets, according to a report from Fansided's Robert Murray. Chris Cotillo had this breakdown of Smith on the article. He said, Smith, 27, has yo-yoed between AAA and the majors this year, appearing in 58 games for New York and 15 for AAA Syracuse. In the majors, the lefty swinger owns a 194 batting average with 0 homers, 17 RBIs, and a 560 OPS in 152 plate appearances. He's having a down year after also struggling in 2021, but is just 2 years removed from an excellent 2020 in which he hit 316 with a 993 OPS in 50 games. He also had a good offensive season in 2019, 282 with an 881 OPS in 89 games. Before you say anything, because I saw, again, the comp of 2020. What happened in that 2020 season in baseball, if you can remember? What year was that for baseball?
COVID year.
Thank you. The shortened COVID year that Jackie Bradley Jr., I think, was a 280 hitter, and JD Martinez was a 220 hitter. And we sat here on the show and said, throw out all those stats because it's a joke year. And the Dodgers got a Mickey Mouse World Series out of it, even though the World Series wasn't in
even though
Orlando.
I adore Mookie Betts.
Yeah, exactly. So I'll throw those numbers right out there because more so than not, he has been a bad player or a league average player. And the numbers of a 194 average with 0 homers and 17 RBIs to me screams another Franchi Cordero type player, which is right up the Red Sox alley. Don't get me wrong. I mean, this is what Chaim Bloom does. He scours through everybody else's trash and hopes to find some sort of diamond in the rough. But to pile on it as well, Dominic Smith is currently hurt. He's on the 10-day injured list with an ankle injury. So why is that the guy you're going after? The answer is obvious because he's cheap and he's not going to cost you a whole lot of money.
It's a Chaim Bloom type of guy.
And it's a Chaim Bloom move, exactly.
Like one of those moves, he's like, yeah, we've seen promise from Dominic in the past, and we think we can recapture that potential here in Boston. And
3 years ago, he was really good.
I don't really hate it from that standpoint because if you can, obviously it looks good. It looks like a smart, savvy move, but it also aligns with the fact that if they're going to make a small move while they're selling, this seems like the guy. It seems like the perfect kind of fit. Like you can kind of sneak it under, you potentially moving Bogarts or Martinez or whoever. Sounds like one of those okay, well, we got this guy. Let's look forward to him next year. Maybe we can get Dominic Smith to break out.
Yeah, if they're selling,
it's nothing to get excited about though. I don't mean to sound like I'm hating on the guy super hard, but
I don't hate Dominic Smith by any means. It's just it's a move.
It's just
if you're selling, it's a move like you said. That makes sense. Yeah, I mean, it's again, if you're legitimate going into the deadline as sellers and you can pick this guy up, and if he gets healthy and maybe put something together, then again, maybe you can look at it as a win. But that report came out obviously before the 28-5 drumming, and you maybe had some people thinking that the Red Sox should be buyers at the deadline. If this is the guy you're buying on to try to fill the black hole at first base that you've had, and he's a guy that I don't think adds anything to it. It's a lateral move more than anything else.
Exactly what I was just going to say.
Yeah, you're moving in the same direction of Bobby Dahlbeck and Franchi Cordero and the experiment of Christian Vasquez at first base that didn't work out last year. These are all moves that, again, not going to move the needle. Like you said, it's not a move that gets you excited. It's a move that makes sense because, again, he's going to be cheap. He has controllability from 2023 and 2024, so he's going to be here. They can determine what they give him because he's arbitration eligible. So you can go into discussions as that. It's, again, the Tampa Bay Rays type of move that doesn't move the needle in any way, shape, or form, and hopefully you can hit a home run on this guy. I'm going to tell you now, you're probably not going to.
Yeah.
It doesn't do anything for you. Yep.
It'd be different, too. 27 is not a super old age, but 27 for a guy like this is
He's been in the league 6 years. You kind of know what he is at this point.
Exactly.
It's the same thing with Franchi Cordero. He's been up and down 5 or 6 years, however long he's been in the league. You kind of know what he is. He's a guy that goes through a stretch where he's 0 for his last 20 and has 17 strikeouts or something stupid like that.
Yeah, 0 for 16 with 15 strikeouts is astonishingly bad.
But hey, you have nothing else because why would you invest at the position.
Cautious was hurt. So.
And exactly. We talked about that he would be up here by now. If
that too, man, just give me Tristan Cautious as soon as possible.
Mm-hmm.
I will start watching Red Sox games again if I can watch Tristan Cautious. I don't care if he goes 1 for 4 every night.
Oh, it's the Bayo effect. You tune in just to see if the guy can stick. And exactly. I'll do that.
This kid is ginormous. Mm-hmm. I think this is a real potential kid that can hit 40 to 50 home runs if he hits his ceiling a season.
Think so?
He's that good.
Oh, put it this way:
to watch him play. I don't care if he's going up an injury. I want to watch him play as soon as possible.
Was just gonna say, there's no way he can be as bad as anything they have now.
Exactly. If you had Schwarber, maybe we wouldn't be talking about this.
Absolutely, yeah. If you had Schwarber, there'd be no need for Casas right now. You let him develop in the minors for another year, but you don't have that. You have two guys that can't play the position.
The thing with Schwarber too is he might have not have been, in this event that he's on the Red Sox this year, might not have been the greatest defensive first baseman either, but he did 28 home runs.
Yep. You can develop him into a serviceable first baseman.
Think about that difference if we had fucking Kyle Schwarber this year.
Well, think of it this way:
striking out 400 times a week.
Yeah, he's fucking awful and making boneheaded plays. Cordero, again, I don't want to crap on Cordero too much because he's not a first baseman, so I'm not going to get on him for the defensive side of the ball. But like you said, 15 strikeouts and 16 at bats, that is. Again, if you had any sort of depth, that's a move where you're like, all right, enough of this. You're going back to Worcester, but you don't have anything else, which is the problem. And if you bring Dominic Smith in, you have something else, but it's more of the same crap. So again, if they're sellers, a move I wouldn't hate. Maybe you get something out of him if he gets healthy. But if you somehow turn this around going into the deadline and you become buyers, this is a move that you should not even be entertaining. If you wanted to get a first baseman, you should have been in on. I think it was Carlos Santana who got traded for nothing to Seattle a couple weeks ago, and then Dan Vogelback yesterday got traded for nothing. I think to the I can't remember where he went.
I didn't even see that. So
he got moved. I can't remember where the hell
he was on the Brewers, right?
No, Pittsburgh. He was on Milwaukee at one point.
I don't even know. I didn't even see the
trade. I can't remember where, but can't remember where he went. But he got dealt for nothing.
Smith is one of those guys too. It's he feels like the prime, change of scenery type of guy.
Exactly.
Change of scenery. It's one of those types of moves.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, man, it just all goes back to the common theme. It's not a whole lot to be excited about right now. Mm-hmm. You gotta hope you nail these trades you make and you get some solid
if you
value.
Make them, yeah.
If you make them, because we really don't know.
Well, that was going to be my final question because we'll do more trade deadline stuff next week. Because obviously the trade deadline is that Tuesday, so we'll have our trade deadline preview on this upcoming Wednesday, rather. If you had to make a prediction right now with what you saw last night, with what you saw before the trade deadline, and what you've heard from players and Alexander Bogaerts obviously wanting to be buyers, do you think they listen to Bogaerts, or do you think their play, and if they start to really falter down the stretch, are they going to buy or are they going to sell at the deadline?
Hoping they're going to sell, thinking they're going to try and scrap something together.
Okay.
There is no clear direction.
No, there's just a huge problem. You're $200 million payroll, big market, and you have no direction it seems like you want to go in, or you kind of have a direction, but you don't really know if you can. Because if they get hot, I don't think they will, but if they get hot and they can get back into this thing, then they're at a real crossroads. Yeah, well, that's exactly. They have to take a bunch of these games. I don't know what's it. 7-10. Like I said,
winning
the homestand
series in the division would be,
would be nice. Yep. But you made that more difficult with giving up 28 runs last night and going up against an all-star who struck out the side in the all-star game in Manoa tonight. They're going to lose this game. There's no way they win this game tonight with what they have going out there.
It'd be classic if they did, though.
Oh, this is the game they come out and they'll play perfect baseball and win 3-0, have a great game, give you some hope, and then the third game of the series they'll get smacked again.
One guy I will say, I think they do trade is Martinez.
That's what I mean. It's they don't know which direction they want to go in. Because again, if they get hot, it's going to put pressure on Bloom to add. And I don't think he wants to add. I think he would rather sell off these guys like Bogaerts and Martinez. And even JD a couple weeks ago said it's going to be a weird trade deadline because it doesn't seem like he knows what direction they want to go in.
I think JD knows he just doesn't have a future here, and he's just kind of cruising at this point.
Exactly.
I don't mean that in a bad way, but the hope I do have is that Bloom is smart enough, not one of these dinosaurs, to be look, we got to do the right thing. And I think he knows what the right thing is, but it just comes back to ownership.
You have that, exactly, the black cloud hanging over.
Ownership, that fucking idiot, man.
Yep, whispering in Chaim Bloom's ear, saying that you need to get rid of all these guys to sell. But like I said, I
So
don't know.
forward.
Like my direction for them is it depends again on the homestand. If they can win the homestand, they're not going to be big. But like I've seen some people be like, "Oh, go all and get Juan Soto." You're an idiot if you think they're going to do
Dude,
that. Like
yeah, like you're actually
that's
out of your tree. Like,
they built up the farm system. They're not going to trade it all away for a guy that is they're not going to pay. Like let's be honest here. I don't think, again, as things goes on, like if they want to buy, I don't think they're not going to be big buyers. They're going to get minor pieces like Dom Smith and Jose Quintana and try to piece this together so Chaim Bloom can sit there and go, see, we made moves. They weren't big moves, but we did something at the deadline. We added, so don't get mad at me too much. But if they lose and things collapse, I think everybody is gone. And you look at the free agents they have, Bogarts can opt out. He will. JD Martinez, Nathan Eovaldi, Kike Hernandez, Michael Walker, Rich Hill, Christian Vasquez, Matt Strom, and Kevin Plawecki. I think maybe two of those guys are safe. I think Hernandez is probably going to stay because he's hurt and he's probably not going to have any trade value if he's even back by the trade deadline. Maybe if you want to move him, you get a team that can maybe bite on his postseason performances. I doubt it though. Rich Hill, the question of him, I know he's hurt too. Maybe you can convince him, we'll trade you to a legitimate contender to get your World Series potentially. Or you just let him play out the rest of the season here in Boston, again, a local guy. And I think Plawecki is probably going to stay because you need some sort of catcher if you end up moving on from Christian Vasquez. But everybody else, Bogarts, he'll be gone. Martinez will be traded. Eovaldi will be traded. Walker, you'll try to, capitalize on the season he's had. He'll get dealt. Vasquez will be gone because teams need catchers. I know the Mets just made a deal today for, I think, Michael Perez. But maybe you dangle Vasquez in front of them. You get something. Maybe you do a Vasquez for Dom Smith trade state.
yeah.
What am I thinking here?
Happen.
Straight up, and that would be a terrible move. And then Matt Strom, who's had a decent year, maybe you move on from him as well. But if they start to stink really bad, like they're looking like they're going to, nobody will be safe. Everyone will be gone, and you'll be watching the Portland Sea Dogs come August 3rd when this is all said and done, which will suck.
Yeah, something just popped into my head. John Henry kind of reminds me of like Newt Gunray from Star Wars.
It's a hell of a comparison, but I can see it. Yeah.
I hope Chris is in the chat still and heard that. He kind of reminds me of Newt Gunray. I can't really pin it exactly.
Slimy, skeevy,
skeevy.
Goes behind your back to.
Yeah. And he just kind of goes this. I can't. You promise peace. Then he gets slaughtered by Anakin. Promise peace.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know.
But that is it.
Just throwing shit out there.
That is my soapbox. Wanted to vent about the Red Sox today because, like we said, a lot has happened, and it's. I think it's only going to get worse from here. There is no light at the end of the tunnel when it comes to the Boston Red Sox, and that is a very disturbing thing to say when a team has a $200+ million payroll and all these all-star, superstar players and a generational talent endeavors that you should be locking up, but they just don't want to for some reason. They want to be the Rays. I know that's an old, tired, overplayed joke, but it's true. There is no signs of them wanting to do anything else except shed all these guys off their payroll and then try to find, as you mentioned, all these diamonds in the rough and, hopefully make some sort of run there. But we've seen how well that worked out for the Rays. They got to one World Series, made some stupid decisions, and now they're kind of just, like we talked about with the Bruins, they're selling playoff tickets and the ownership doesn't really care.
Yeah, sick.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks.
Great franchise.
I want to invest in your team. Yeah, I want to.
Anderson tweeted about the average ticket sales and whatever, that whole thing I was talking about earlier. He's like, yeah, John Henry seems like a really cool person.
Yeah, yep. He's a guy I want to hang out and have a beer with. He's awesome. Great guy.
We'll reference some Ty Anderson tweets as well. And the Bruins section here, as we're segueing into that.
Yep.
There's a decent amount going on in hockey all of a sudden. It was a little bit of a lull after the Johnny Gaudreau stuff, but things are happening, and that is exciting. The Bruins, of course, making a move. Full disrespect to Chris Lackey here, not signing David Krejci yet on his birthday. Full disrespect. Can't do it out of respect for him. Can't just go to his house and announce it to him. Have Krejci show up to the house and announce. To bring with Chris first,
cake and everything.
Yeah, with a cake.
Guess who's back? And then he just pops out of the cake.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
Most recent piece of news from Ty: the Providence Bruins signed goaltender Francois Brassard to a 1-year AHL contract. Played 31 games for ECHL Jacksonville last year. Non-NHL depth chart now. In that now goes Kincaid, Kaiser, Bussy, and Brassard. So yeah, that's the most recent piece of news. We still do not have Bergeron and Krejci news.
Sick.
Yeah, sick. But I'm still not super worried really there. but it is, it gets a little weirder with time, more time we wait.
Mm-hmm.
Other business, Jack Stanika, 2-year contract extension. Kind of sounds like whatever, but when you see it's a 2-way this year, 1-way next year, it's a little interesting.
That's bizarre.
It's interesting because we saw what Zaboral did in a 1-way deal before he got hurt last year.
Ghost
sadly.
back.
No, it was an ambulance outside.
Oh.
Maybe it was a ghost. Maybe it was a ghost mimicking an ambulance. I don't know. Yeah, now you signed AJ Greer this offseason to a 1-way deal. We'll see if he provides some competition for Trev Frederick. Now you got Jack Stanika on a 1-way deal next season. He's a guy that's going to battle this year, but he's not a guaranteed guy. So having that 2-way gives you, more flexibility moving him up and down than the 1-way does. But the 1-way next year tells me that they expect him, if he's not gone, to be a contributor next year.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of take the 2-way this year. And I feel like the same way you just described is if Krejci doesn't come back, Stanika's here. If he does come back, then you have that leeway to send Stanika back to Providence. And then again, next year when maybe Bergeron retires, maybe Krejci's gone again. If this doesn't work out, then Stanika is the go-to guy. So that's definitely interesting.
Yeah. We'll see what happens there. Speaking of, we're talking about one Bruins prospect and now former Bruins prospect, Urho Vakanainen signed a 2-year extension with the Ducks yesterday. So congratulations to Urho for that. Interesting to see how he does in what I assume will be a consistent top 6 role this upcoming season with them. So good for him. Good for him. But like we alluded to, still nothing on Bergeron and Krejci. We're patiently waiting. Chris, I know for a fact it is eating him away. I hope he's relaxing a little more than he probably
can't even celebrate his birthday.
On his birthday, he's just waiting for it. Like I said, disrespect from Don Sweeney not signing him today for Chris. But I don't know if your mindset has changed since the last time we talked, but I'm pretty much in the same boat as last time. I think these deals will get done. I think they're waiting for certain things to happen. Tide, referenced this earlier, made a good point. He said he thinks that the 88 domino has to fall. The Bruins are somewhat reluctant to trade off this roster right now because of injuries. So bonus deals are the path for 37 and 46 if he returns. Feel they want near complete scope of the 2023 cap before tagging math on math. I agree. And
yeah, I didn't even think of the Pasternak thing. That's interesting.
The comments not too long ago of Sweeney saying like they haven't really talked about dollar amount. So much like the Red Sox in a different way, we have no fucking idea.
What are you doing? Yeah.
We have no idea.
What is the plan?
I hope since then they have talked dollar amounts. But I don't know.
I wouldn't say I'm worried, really, really worried. But again, it's kind of the same thing I talked about last year with Krejci. That's what I didn't want to have happen again this year is, and like you said, I mean, they were never going to be on Tkachuk. But like you said, things are happening again in the NHL. These are there's chances upcoming maybe that you might miss out on because you haven't had a decision on Krejci or Bergeron. So like I said before, I didn't want to have this whole offseason hinge around, is Krejci and Bergeron going to come back? How long are we going to have to sit on our hands here and wait for these two guys to come back? So I feel like you're kind of starting to see that again creep in a little bit, that all right, all of our decisions, and like I said, the Pasternak thing maybe changes things a little bit. But all of our decisions are kind of hinging on these two guys. And if we don't get or hear anything from them or don't get to a decision and we can't make other moves, then again, it's going to look like last offseason, and just double the fact now that you're waiting on Bergeron as well, instead of last year where you were just kind of waiting on one center. Now you're waiting on your top two to figure out what's going on. And again, I'm with you. I still think it gets done. But at what point do you have to sit there and go, all right, we need an answer from you two guys because we need to go out and do some other things to try to put some sort of team around you to go for one last cup here and make one last run. And if we can't do that, then we're in trouble here. We have no other options.
The thing too is, which some teams are taking advantage of, is until the season starts, you can go $10 million over the cap.
Okay.
But if you're over the cap and you're trying to move cap out, you have less leverage because you're other GMs are gonna be like, oh, you need to get under the cap. We're not gonna give you exactly what you want. You gotta make it worth it.
Go screw. Yep.
Yeah, you gotta make it worth it for us.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a situation I imagine with how things have gone, the Bruins do not want to find themselves in, which I can get behind. I can absolutely get behind. Because you're probably going to get hurt in trade discussions if you make them, if you're in that position. So, but But yeah, I mean, my first thought when the Tkachuk stuff came up is, if the Bruins are somehow not going to be able to sign Pastrnak, do you trade Pastrnak for Tkachuk straight up? But the wrinkle that I haven't seen anybody mention with that is if you do that, Pastrnak's under contract for very cheap money this year, and you would have had to give Tkachuk $9.5–10 million. He got $9.5 from Florida. So, then you have to make that work on the cap because he makes more than Pasta. So that would have been tough. I hope people didn't expect Matthew Tkachuk to become a Bruin because, man, they're probably having a tough time right now. I honestly expected him to end up in New Jersey or what was the other team I was talking about? New Jersey or I'm surprised Buffalo wasn't in the mix, to be honest. I don't know if he'd want to sign with Buffalo for obvious reasons, but
probably not. No.
They had interest in Kevin Fiala. They could use another scoring winger to, get the ball rolling a little bit more, get back into the playoffs soon. But all indications seem like they weren't really into that. And they have tons of picks and prospects. So they could have gotten it done. But at the same time, the deal didn't really involve picks and prospects as much as we might have
hefty
thought.
Price tag.
It was a huge trade. My God. There's no chance I ever would have expected Jonathan Huberdeau to go in this deal. Just a berserk trade. I think the popular one was the Blues. I really expected the Blues to be in the mix, but I don't know how seriously they were in the mix till the end. But there's speculation does Torrey Krug go to Calgary in that deal to offset the salaries a little bit? Marco Scandella maybe involve a third team and send Scandella to Arizona. Do you move Zachary Bolduc, who I wanted the Bruins to draft last year, but they took Fabian Lysell, so I'm totally fine with that. Do you move Jake Neighbors, who's a really good prospect? Is Vladimir Tarasenko involved? Are the Islanders involved as a third team to take Tarasenko or something? It's a lot of speculation, but he ends up in Florida, in beautiful sunny Florida. This is one of the craziest trades of our lives. Two 100-point scorers moved this deal. You got Tkachuk's RFA rights along with a 2025. It's still crazy that we're trading 2025 picks.
Yeah, down the road. Yeah,
concept down the road for the NHL. You see it more in the
the NBA. It's a joke.
In the NBA, yeah. You trade 2047.
I was gonna say this would have been a 2035 first round pick if this was the NBA.
Exactly.
And two other 2047s would have been attached to it.
A 2025 conditional fourth with Tkachuk's rights to Florida for Jonathan Huberdeau, Mackenzie Weegar, who has been in the rumor mill for a while now, potentially to Ottawa, whoever, any team looking for a right shot defenseman, even though he's played left shot with Aaron Ekblad forming one of the best speed pairs in the league. He is a right shot defenseman playing on the left side. Cole Schwind, solid prospect, third round pick, I think in 2019 of the Panthers. Not a super exciting prospect though, and then you get a 2025 conditional first that's lottery protected. Conditions: if the 2025 first that Florida sent to Calgary is a lottery pick, resulting in Calgary receiving the 2026 first from Florida, then the 2025 fourth round pick slides to 2026.
Jesus Christ!
The Panthers just don't have any first round picks anymore. They're like the Rams in a way, even though they haven't won a Stanley Cup like the Rams won a Super Bowl this year. They traded a first in the Giroux trade. They traded one in the freaking Ben Sherratt trade, which was dumb because he's not good. But they just don't have first round picks. They're gonna be
going all in. Literally the definition. Yeah.
It is bananas that they traded Huberdeau. It obviously makes sense because Tkachuk is extremely good, and you got to get that extension in place. This is the first true sign and trade I think ever in the NHL. Someone mentioned. Tkachuk signed that deal with Calgary, immediately shipped to Florida. Crazy, especially given the fact of the future implications. Huberdeau and Weegar could both just walk in free agency next summer. And this trade would look terrible. But I have to imagine there's some sort of belief that there's a good chance that they could sign these guys long term. And for the Flames' sake, to want to compete, I hope they do end up getting that done because that would just be a massive, massive screw up. This trade was bananas. It came out super late last night. I think it was past midnight. I had a few in me when I had it from stemming from the concert, so I was freaking out, trying not to wake up my neighbors at the same time in the apartment. What a trade. What a trade. Your thoughts?
Well, I was going to say, because you talked about Huberdeau and Weegar potentially walking, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't Kachuk come out and say that he wasn't going to re-sign with Calgary if he wasn't dealt? So weren't they kind of handcuffed a little bit? So that's kind of where I'm at. Like, it is a massive trade with some major, problems if these guys don't re-sign. But I feel like at the same time, like Calgary was something they were almost forced to have to do because the guy obviously wasn't going to stay there or play there. So it makes some sense. But I'm with you. I mean, when I saw Huberdeau's name come up, I'm like, wow, I didn't think that was a guy that Florida would ever move on from. But I guess, if you can get a guy like Kachuk and, upgrade there, then it's a move you really have to make.
Yeah, they're both very good players, but it comes down to age too. Like Kachuk is 5 years younger.
Yeah, so
locked up through 29, 30 now. He's a phenomenal player. Like you could have wondered, like he's not with Gaudreau and Lindholm, whatever team he's on, is he going to be as good? Mm-hmm. Now he's going to play with Alex Barkov most likely. So I think he's going to be fine. It's
substitution, yeah.
Yep. If not better, because Alexander Barkov is like the modern day Datsuk, like bigger, obviously, but like he's magical. He's got magical hands. And whoever's on the left, whether it's Duclair when he comes back, whether it's Carter Verhaeghe, whoever, he's going to be fine in Florida, and he's going to enjoy the weather much more.
Absolutely,
unless he's a sicko who loves the cold. Mm-hmm. And for the Flames, they get a couple Canadian boys, so maybe they want to, stick around in Canada and sign long term. We'll see what happens there, but I have to imagine there's, at least for Huberdeau in particular, there's some interest there already, and the right moves. Like it's not like Calgary's gonna suck this year, so it's not like he's like, oh, like they lost Gaudreau, like I don't even want to sign here long term.
Yeah.
So I have faith that Calgary can get it done. From an upside perspective, even if it's just 1 year, they got about as much talent right now as they could have. Probably.
Absolutely.
Maybe the most, and you could definitely make the case for that. What a fucking trade! Like, holy shit, dude. I was not expecting this. I was fully expecting him to end up in St. Louis and being upset about that. But he doesn't go to the hometown team. Suck it, Blues fans, fucking dicks.
Why are we so hostile towards St. Louis? Oh wait. Got it. I remember
now. So other implications in this trade. So this puts Florida $3.375 million over the cap. They can alleviate some of this whenever they choose to do so by putting Anthony Duclair's $3 million on long-term IR. He's expected to miss close to half the season, if not half the season, with an unfortunate Achilles injury he suffered about a month ago in off-season training. Sucks. Anthony Duclair fucking rules. He's awesome. He's crazy fast, really good shooter. Would have been fun to see on Kachuk's opposite wing to start the season, but doesn't look like we're going to see that with, of course, Anthony missing a good chunk of the season, which sucks. But yeah, Jason Gregor on Twitter mentioned only the second time in NHL history that 100-point players have been involved in the same trade. Kachuk for Huberdeau and Jimmy Carson for Wayne Gretzky in the summer of 1988. Only other five 100-point players dealt in an offseason include Marcel Dion. I don't know who Rogers is. Sorry for anybody pissed by that. Mike Bullard. I think it's Mike Bullard. Jaromir Jagr and Johnny Gaudreau. Even though, Johnny Gaudreau wasn't involved in a trade, so to say, he just mentioned him because it's a 100-point player on the league this offseason. But yeah, this is going to be a really interesting trade to monitor. I think it's huge for Calgary's contention hopes because you get that Gaudreau replacement, whatever you do on the other wing, maybe bump Mangiapane up, whatever you do. Toffoli gets promotion. They do have options. They could have done a whole lot worse here. And right now, to me, it's an absolute win for Calgary. You trade a younger player, a really good player, and just a beast physically, a guy that plays hard. He struggled a little bit in the playoffs at times, I think, and you get a lot back. You get a lot back. You get a lot that can help you right now. You didn't just go for picks and prospects. In the short term, it's a win, but it's one of those trades that's going to, like I said, be very interesting to monitor. We'll see how it works out for Calgary, whether we see Huberdeau, Lindholm, Toffoli as the top line next year. That'll be fun to watch. Maybe Tyler Toffoli. We've seen him score a lot in the past. Maybe he becomes like a 30, 40 goal scorer on that line. Honestly, wouldn't surprise me. Maybe 40's a lot, but going to be very interesting to monitor because this could absolutely blow up in Calgary's face if they were to lose one, if not both of them. But the interesting thing, too, from a lineup perspective, I want to touch on real quick is what this means for Calgary's defense because, like I said earlier, Weegar's a right shot defenseman, but he plays on the left side. And not only did he play on the left side, he played on the left side very well and created a very, very formidable defensive pairing with Aaron Ekblad. So what do you do for Calgary? Do you try to convert him to a right shot defenseman? Doesn't really make a lot of sense when you have Chris Tanev and Rasmus Anderson. So my thought process is you have Noah Hanifin, you kept Zadorov, maybe you put Uyghur on the left with like Rasmus Anderson and bump Oliver Shillington to the right, because I think Oliver Shillington could play his offside better than a big bruiser defenseman like Nikita Zadorov could. So they have a little conundrum there they got to figure out. But look, man, that's a really solid defensive core. That's a really, really solid defensive core. And good on Brad Trey Living for making the most of this deal, because it just shows, it reinforces some optimism for the fan base. You lose Johnny Gaudreau for nothing. You have to trade Kachuk because he doesn't want to sign long term. You made a really good situation out of this, at least in the short term for this season. So you got to be happy about that. Hopefully this, gives Flames fans some hope. But other than that, around the league, this isn't really like a thing, but it's just speculation with them trading a left side defenseman, I should say, in Uyghur. Do they want a guy like Mike Riley? I don't know. But he only makes $3 million. Better than like a Sam Girard. I saw Bruins cap space on Twitter throw this out. I forget who the other guy he mentioned was. Sam Girard makes $5 million, so it makes it a little more tough on the cap. Do they want a guy like Mike Riley? I don't know. Maybe just throwing it out there. It's not a bad idea. Shout out to Bruins cap space for that one. Saw that on Twitter earlier before the show. Could happen. Pierre-Luc Dubois accepts his qualifying offer from Winnipeg and stays there for 1 year at $6 million. He has made it clear that he intends to test the free agent market next year, so probably going to do that. Rumors that he wants to play for Montreal too, as a Canadian lad. So
there you go.
Montreal's got some cap troubles of their own, so they're going to have to make some moves to accommodate that down the road. Speaking of the Winnipeg Jets, as Merrimack guys, Jonathan Kovacevic, 3-year extension.
Oh, right. I was trying to remember where I recognized the name. I'm like, why can't I figure out why that name sounds familiar?
Yeah, I mean, there's a guy I legit think we could see some more of Jonathan Kovacevic at the NHL level this year. He's 25 now, so like they could have seen, oh, he's 25, he's not like an established guy yet, we can just let him go. But I mean, the guy's got enough puck moving ability, size, and a good enough skater to be exciting to them, and I can't blame them from keeping him around. Wouldn't have expected 3 years, but good for him, honestly. Yep. This is a guy we could see a decent amount of in the NHL this year, and as a Merrimack guy like us, shout out to him. Patrick Laine, speaking of former Winnipeg Jets, he got a payday that I didn't quite expect him to get, because as anyone who knows me well enough know, I love Patrick Laine. I think he's fucking awesome, but he's kind of a wild card at times, and he's finding his fit in Columbus, but he's a little bit of a wild card at times. He's not necessarily a defensive mastermind by any means. He's kind of a unicorn, and that's funny because however, the guy with all the use, disease, season, all that shit from The Athletic said like that Matthew Tkachuk is a unicorn. Patrick Laine is a unicorn in his own right too, because he can score the lights out, especially when he has a guy like Gaudreau in his line potentially now. Can easily hit a 50 bomb, I think. $8.7 million a year is a lot for Patrick Laine.
Hefty price, yeah.
That's a lot. I would have expected 7, maybe reverse that, like 7.8, like 7.5, 7, 6.8, maybe, like something around there. 8.7 is a lot, but Jaromir Kekalainen wanted him when he traded for him as a fellow Finn. He's got a lot of faith in Patrick. And Gaudreau and Laine, throw whoever in the middle, they're going to go off. They're going to go sicko dummy.
Dangerous line, yep.
And you brought Cole Sillinger in, 12th overall pick as an 18-year-old last year, and he didn't look out of place. So if you really want to go bold and put him between two studs, you might accelerate Cole Sillinger's development quite a bit as a guy who's, for himself, a pretty damn good shooter, and that was his trademark coming out of the draft last year. Guy can shoot the lights out. Oh man, that's gonna be fun to watch. I really hope Gaudreau and Laine play together quite a bit next year, because that would just be lots of fun. Yeah, Laine's a pure sniper. He doesn't score a ton at 5-on-5, but he's a sniper. He scores when it counts. He scores in the power play. Scores those big heaping one-timers like Pastrnak, but we'll see how it works with Johnny Gaudreau this year. There's a lot going on all of a sudden, and we're not even done yet. Oliver Bjorkstrand, if I was Columbus, gotta be honest, not the guy I would have moved for cap space, because I think Oliver Bjorkstrand is very underrated and very good in all three zones, can score a decent amount. They trade him to Seattle for a third and a fourth, and they're not even their picks. So Calgary's and Winnipeg's picks that they had. So love that trade for Seattle. They added Burakovsky. They signed Jared McCann long-term. They're starting to build something a little bit in Seattle. Defense still needs to get better. Goaltending was historically bad last year. So they're not complete yet, but they'll have Matty Beniers and Shane Wright hopefully.
They're getting there.
They're getting there. They're working on it. I got faith in them, but I don't know if they'll be a playoff team. I don't know if I'm going to pick them in the playoffs this year. Like I picked them to be the third seed in their division last year, but we'll see. A lot can change over time. Love that trade for Seattle. Like that is practically nothing to give up for a guy like Oliver Bjorkstrand. You're really starting to get stronger on the wing there in Seattle with the additions of Burakovsky and Bjorkstrand. So maybe they just couldn't trade Nyquist though. I think that was a popular guy, but he's 32, makes 5.5, good player, but this is an easier guy to trade. I just think they could have gotten more. But at the same time, we're talking about leverage. Columbus is over the cap. They kind of lose leverage there.
Not a ton there.
Yeah. But they're making moves, signing Patrick Laine to a huge contract, trading Oliver Bjorkstrand. I think he's going to thrive with the right line mates. In Seattle, wouldn't have expected him to be on the move this offseason. But to cap off the moves, the Penguins made a couple trades a week ago. Pretty dumb trades. I got to be honest, John Marino is far better than Ty Smith. Ty Smith can be better, but arguably the worst defenseman in his own zone last year. He was a train wreck, pure offense, but even so didn't even provide a ton of offense. John Marino is very good. Pretty underrated. Now they got a conundrum on the right side. They drafted Nemitz, second overall. They got Dougie Hamilton. They got Damon Severson. Kind of makes you think with Marino here now, they're going to move on from Damon Severson, who's a free agent next summer at some point, maybe at the deadline, if they're not somehow in the playoffs, of course. But maybe going the slow route on Nemitz, keeping him in the AHL for the majority of the season. I'd probably give him some NHL time, but, can't hurt to let him get used to North American ice a little bit more in Utica. But dumb trade. I think New Jersey wins that by a landslide. I think Ty Smith can be better, but I think right now, as they're trying to enter the contention window slowly but surely, adding a guy like John Marino is a smart move. Penguins, not really sure what they're doing here. Much like this other move, Jeff Petrie to the Pittsburgh Penguins along with Brian Paling for Michael Matheson and a pick. I like Michael Matheson as a BC guy, but he's kind of up and down. Maybe he does decent in Montreal. Jeff Petrie makes too much money. Maybe he plays better on a better team. Ryan Paling isn't guaranteed to even crack Pittsburgh's lineup with all the bottom six forwards they signed and the depth they already have, but they're also waiting to see what happens with Evan Rodriguez. So who knows, but I stand by my statement that I think Ron Hextall, as a former Philly Flyer, is a sleeper agent to destroy the Pittsburgh Penguins. He tried to do so by not signing Malkin, but Sidney Crosby probably bent his ear and said, you better fucking sign Malkin if I'm going to show up and put shit on your doorstep on your fire every day for the rest of your life. You don't sign up getting Malkin. I don't get it. You right shot defensemen are a commodity in this league. You downgrade with a left shot defenseman. Then you get an older right shot defenseman with a bad contract. That's not a guaranteed awesome top four defenseman all the time, but can be. It's weird.
They see something you don't, apparently.
It's weird. They gave Rick Harberkel 6 years. I wouldn't have done that. I think
that was a weird, yeah.
Brian Russ got 6 years. That's deservingly so. I think Brian Russ is awesome and he's a playoff dynamo. The new age Justin Williams, if you will. But I don't know, man. Penguins fans might think I'm crazy. Some might agree. Some guy called me a really bad word for saying it, but I'm not going to repeat that word in the air. Look, man. And it was a Brian Windhorst meme. Sorry, I love the Brian Windhorst meme.
Those are in right now.
So they're
definitely haven't been overused.
Yeah, I love that's my favorite meme out there these days. But there's a lot going on in the NHL. There's a lot going on, and that's exciting. But Any thoughts from you about, as I've rambled for a little while, any of these moves I've discussed outside of the Huberdeau and Kachuk big blockbuster?
Other than the Line thing, I figured Line was going to be a guy that might test the open market, so to sign an extension was a little surprising. But like you mentioned, with the talent that could be on that team, like that's not a surprise that he cashes out and wants to stay in Columbus. Other than that, nothing much.
Yeah.
I just got a frustrating update from the Nesson app saying that the
What
Red Sox look to gain ground in the AL East standings. Don't miss the action in all caps. I think I will miss the action.
I'm gonna miss the action.
I don't want to sit through another. Like, it wouldn't surprise me tonight if they get no hit, because again, that's just how great of a pitcher Manoah is. So I will not be wanting to gouge my eyes out with spoons and forks again like I wanted to if I watched last night's game.
Oh yeah.
No, thank you. Just go lose your series again in the AL East and just get it over with already. Like, I don't want to. Like, go teach Duran how to catch a fly ball or run after a fly ball. Like,
yeah,
I don't care.
Yeah, the interesting thing for Line too is like when they traded for him, people were like, is he gonna want to stay in Columbus? Is he gonna just jet off somewhere? But it became more and more of a storyline that, like, he's said multiple times he likes it there, he likes the city. It's becoming a thing now. Johnny Gaudreau said similar things. Columbus is becoming a market. No coincidence with Sean Corrali's there. Legend of the game.
The timetable, that all seemed to come together once he got there. It's weird. I don't know if there's a coincidence there or not. Yeah.
Why is this happening?
There's a Windhorse meme for you.
There's a good positive Windhorse meme for the king, Sean Corrali. But yeah, he also mentioned his girlfriend loves Columbus too, so that's important for him. Being in a place they like being. So shout out to Patrick Line. I hope this is the year. He's kind of had hills and valleys over the past few years, but we know what he's capable of. The league is in a better spot when Patrick Line is sending 400-mile-per-hour shots into the net. So, like,
unless you're the opposing goalie.
Yeah, if you couldn't tell, I'm extremely excited to watch him and Johnny Gaudreau on the same team. Kent Johnson, who's like practically Gaudreau 2.0, just a little bigger. A guy that grew up idolizing Gaudreau. That Columbus team could be sneaky fun to watch this year, even though they signed Eric Branson for $16 million for some reason, and he's bad. So easily the worst contract of the offseason.
Well, you can't always hit home runs.
But at the same time, him and Gaudreau, they didn't know they were going to get Gaudreau, but they were teammates.
It's true.
At the time they signed him, at least, in Calgary. So maybe you overpay him, but maybe he's a good vibes guy. He fights people. That's the good thing for them because, they are becoming a pretty young team. Branson can legit kick ass. So that's good. He'll be defending guys like Gaudreau if he needs it. Kent Johnson, Chainikov, all those young players they have. Sillinger. So I like that the offseason picked up a little bit over these past couple of days because we would have had much less to talk about and much less for me to ramble about and get shit off my mind. So
we needed some positives,
mind, but it'll still be on my mind.
We needed some positives to try to negate all the Red Sox stuff that has just gone so completely south that it's not even funny anymore.
And we didn't get a Friday at 5 news dump about Krejci or something.
Exactly. Yep. That'll come today
Twitter.
At like 5:30.
Yeah, quickly scrolling Twitter, I saw Pedro McGuire, as he likes to do, tweeted out the old "Welcome Back, Lee Stempniak" gif to mess with people. So trying to see if there's any news popping up towards the end of our recording here, but it doesn't look like that is the case. So we're gonna wrap it up here on this Saturday recording. If Chris is still in the chat, I don't know if he is. He's been in and out, I think, doing birthday festivities with the family, as he should. So just want to give him a shout out again. Happy birthday, man of the people, friend of the program, one of my best friends. Maybe we'll have him on the show in the future. I don't know. It just kind of happens when we have him on the show. There's no rhyme or reason to it.
Just a spontaneous, out of nowhere.
Yeah, we're not going to sing for him, though. It's okay.
No.
He's not here right now. If he were here, maybe I'd sing. But that's going to wrap it up. It's good, compact, but packed at the same time. Saturday show, I think the first one of its kind for us. So it's a milestone. Episode 104 in the books. Thank you so much for listening. Anyone who's tuned in on a Saturday afternoon live, shout out to you because it's unorthodox for us and it's unorthodox in general for podcasts. But thank you so much for listening. You can find us wherever you get your podcasts. You can follow me on Twitter at Mike_Cratty. Follow Ryan at Ryan_Salvaggio. And you follow the show at Salvaggio and Cratty Pod. Maybe I'll get back on the TikTok and post some clips this week. It's kind of just whenever I feel like it. Sorry if you're dying for more TikTok content.
I'll have to gear up my trade deadline one. That'll be coming around the corner.
Oh, yeah.
So people can get
40,000 views again.
when the Red Sox trade everything and I say that the fans are losers, people can get mad at me for saying that the Red Sox are losers for getting all these prospects because no one pays attention to anything. So
that'll get us to finally get it to 1,000 followers.
Yeah.
So if you want to follow us and help us get there, we're like 819, I think. Throw Salvaggio and Cratty into the search bar on TikTok. You'll find us there. I can't say for sure we're gonna post consistently because we never really do all the time. But when we post, it's good content. I think good content. We don't get much hate, But that's whatever. Follow us on TikTok if you please. We much appreciate it. You can give us a rating, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Feel like doing that. If you want to yell at us on Twitter, you can do that as well. That's okay, I guess. But yeah, thank you so much for listening on this hot ass summer day. So glad I'm in an air conditioned room right now.
Yeah,
that's a blessing.
Yep.
But yeah, if you're out in the sun right now, wear sunscreen. You're not tougher than the sun. Nobody is. And we'll talk to you next week. Hopefully we'll have more positive Red Sox stuff, maybe Bergeron and Krejci stuff, whatever. But shout out to Ryan for being brave and wearing the Jedi robe as well.
Yep.
That was baller, man of the people type move. We'll talk to you next week. Stay safe, stay healthy, be nice to people and all that good stuff. And we'll see you for episode 105. Peace. Beautiful episode. Beautiful episode.